All right, so Stonehenge, right? Everyone's seen pictures. Everyone kind of thinks they know what it's all about. But what if I told you that like everything we thought we knew was basically just scratching the surface?
Yeah, I'd say there are some pretty mind-blowing discoveries happening right now that are like completely transforming how we see this ancient site.
Totally. It's not just some pile of rocks anymore. I mean, it never really was, but we're getting a much deeper understanding now. And that's actually what we're going to dive into today. There's this really fascinating article that came out recently called Stonehenge's Secret, the mind-blowing new discovery. And honestly, it lives up to that title.
It really does. It's packed with all this like cutting-edge research, from archaeology to like high-tech stuff and all sorts of theories that are changing our whole perspective on Stonehenge.
Yeah, for real. So basically today we're going to unpack this article and try to pull out those like key insights that are really like redefining Stonehenge. We're not just talking about a monument here, but like a whole vibrant cultural hub, like a spiritual center, even an astronomical observatory. This is going to change how you think about Stonehenge. I'm pretty excited to dive in.
You too.
Yeah.
I think one of the most surprising things is what they're finding like right under the surface.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That's one of the first things that like jumps out in the article.
Yeah, so they found like over 50,000 bone fragments,
Wow.
which is a lot, right? And they represent at least 63 individuals who are like buried within the stone circle itself. So, we always kind of thought of Stonehenge as a ceremonial site,
Right.
but now there's this really strong link to death and burial.
Hmm.
So it's almost like Stonehenge is becoming this ceremonial graveyard,
Yeah.
but like a necropolis.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's not just a place where people gathered, it's like where they laid their dead to rest.
Exactly. And what's really interesting is when you look at what else they've found, like in the area surrounding Stonehenge, it kind of gives you a fuller picture.
So it's not all doom and gloom then?
Well, not quite. I mean, they found animal bones too, like from aurochs, which were these like massive wild cattle.
Oh, wow, I've never even heard of those.
Yeah, they were pretty impressive creatures. And they found these bones in the ditches around Stonehenge. And then there's evidence of these huge feasts happening just a couple miles away at a place called Durrington Walls.
So you're saying like they're celebrating life too, like right alongside death?
Yeah, it's like this whole cycle, death and life and celebration.
Yeah.
And it all seems to be interconnected within this like broader ritual landscape.
It wasn't just like a somber place of mourning then.
Right. It's much more nuanced than that.
So it's a burial ground, a feast ground. What else? I mean, the article talks about those, famous astronomical connections.
Oh, absolutely. Like, honestly, the precision of these alignments is just mind-blowing.
I know, right? It's not just random chance.
No way. Like the heel stone, for example. It aligns perfectly with the sunrise on the summer solstice.
Wow.
And then you've got the trilithons, those big, two upright stones with a horizontal one across the top.
Yeah, yeah. Those are iconic.
Well, those frame the sunset on the winter solstice. And it's like dead on.
So they were really paying attention to the movements of the sun and the seasons. Makes you wonder what kind of knowledge they had?
Totally. And then there's this theory about those 56 Aubrey holes.
Okay, yeah, those are like those kind of, well, holes, I guess, arranged in a circle, right?
Right. And some archaeologists believe that they might have functioned as like this prehistoric calendar.
Really? Like, how?
Well, the idea is that maybe they used them to track lunar eclipses.
Whoa. Like predicting eclipses.
Potentially. I mean, think about it. These Neolithic people were really in tune with nature.
Yeah, their lives depended on the seasons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So knowing when these astronomical events were going to happen would have been like super important for them.
And powerful, right? Like being able to, I don't know, predict something like an eclipse.
Oh, absolutely. So maybe they were using these holes, like with markers or something, to chart the cycles of the moon.
That's amazing to think about. It's like Stonehenge is this giant observatory.
Yeah, it's not just passive. It's like an active tool for understanding the cosmos.
That just blows my mind. And then there are those blue stones, right? The article calls their journey from Wales one of the most captivating parts of the whole Stonehenge story.
Yeah, the blue stones are a real mystery.
I mean, they didn't just magically appear there.
Right, so these stones, some of them weighing up to 4 tons, were brought all the way from the Presley Hills in Wales,
Okay, and how far away is that?
like 150 miles.
What? 150 miles? That's insane.
Yeah, especially considering they didn't have, trucks and cranes and stuff.
Yeah, so how did they do it?
Well, that's the big question.
I mean, 150 miles with a 4-ton rock.
Right, it must have been an incredible undertaking. The article talks about a few theories. Some think they used a ton of manpower, like dragging and pushing them. Others think maybe they used rafts along waterways and then dragged them over land.
That would have been a huge communal effort.
Oh, definitely. It's like the whole community had to come together to make it happen.
But why go through all that trouble? I mean, 150 miles, there had to be a reason.
Yeah. And that's where the theories about the ritual significance come in. So some people think the blue stones were chosen because they were associated with healing.
Okay.
There are these springs in Wales that were thought to have healing powers, and some of the blue stones came from near there.
Mm.
And then there's the idea that maybe they were reused from earlier stone circles in Wales.
Oh, interesting.
So it's like they were bringing the power of those older sites to Stonehenge.
Wow. So maybe it's about like ancestors and like connecting different communities or something?
It's possible. It just shows you that it was about much more than just moving rocks, you know. There were layers of meaning and belief behind it all.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then there's this whole other layer to the story, right? This discovery of the so-called superhenge.
Oh, yeah. This is one of the more recent discoveries, and it's pretty wild.
So what is a superhenge exactly?
Well, they found it using ground-penetrating radar. Basically, it's this huge circle of pits, each one like over 10 meters wide.
10 meters? That's giant.
Yeah. And they think these pits might have held like massive timber posts or even more stones.
Okay, so it's like an even bigger, I don't know, enclosure around Stonehenge.
Yeah, like a much larger, defined sacred space. It really makes you think about the scale of their ambitions.
It wasn't just about what we see standing today.
Exactly. There's this whole other level of complexity. And when you start to look at all the other sites nearby, it really starts to paint a picture.
Oh, yeah, the article mentions a bunch of other places.
Right, so you've got Woodhenge, which was probably like a timber version of Stonehenge, and then Durrington Walls, which seems to have been a big settlement and feasting center.
I'm seeing a theme here. A lot of feasting.
Yeah, it seems like celebrating was a big part of their culture.
Makes sense.
And then there's the Avenue, which is like a ceremonial walkway connecting some of these places. And then the Cursus, this long earthwork that stretches for over a mile.
It's incredible to think about all of this activity happening in this relatively small area.
Yeah, it wasn't just Stonehenge standing alone. It was the center of this whole, like, interconnected network of ritual and community life.
And it's amazing how much more we're learning about all of this because of, technology. The article really emphasizes how all these high-tech tools are revolutionizing archaeology.
It's true. Like, we're able to see things now that were just completely invisible before.
Yeah, like what?
Well, for example, they're using laser scans to reveal these faint carvings on the stones.
Oh.
Yeah, things like daggers and axes and different symbols. It gives us these little glimpses into their beliefs and, the things that were important to them.
It's like they're communicating across time.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you've got things like 3D scanning and AI, which are helping us to make sense of all this data we're collecting. They're showing us patterns and connections that we would never notice before.
Okay, so computers are helping us understand Stonehenge. That's pretty cool. And then there's that whole thing with the isotopes, right? That seems like some real CSI stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So through isotope analysis, they can actually figure out where the people buried at Stonehenge came from originally.
Oh, right, because different regions have different, like, chemical signatures or something?
Exactly. And they found that some of these people actually came from all the way over in Wales.
Really?
Yeah, which is really interesting because it suggests that Stonehenge wasn't just a local site.
Right. People were traveling from far and wide to get there.
Yeah, maybe as pilgrims or maybe even migrating there permanently. We're not entirely sure.
But it definitely adds to the whole, mystique of the place.
For sure. And then there's this whole other area of research that's really fascinating, which is archaeoacoustics.
What?
Archaeoacoustics. It's basically the study of how sound behaved in ancient structures.
Okay.
And some researchers believe that Stonehenge was actually designed to manipulate sound.
Like how?
Well, imagine the stones acting like these giant amplifiers and reflectors.
Oh, okay.
So during ceremonies, the sounds of voices and music would have been echoing and amplifying throughout the circle. We've created this really powerful, immersive experience.
Wow, I never thought of it that way. It wasn't just about what you saw, it was about what you heard, too.
Exactly. It really adds another dimension to our understanding of Stonehenge.
So we've got all these new technologies helping us to unlock the secrets of Stonehenge, but then there are the people who actually built it, right? The article talks about the Neolithic beaker culture.
Yeah, and they really emphasize that these people were like master engineers.
Yeah.
Even though they didn't have, modern
It's
tools.
pretty amazing what they accomplished with what they had.
It really is. And when you think about the scale of these projects, it says a lot about their social organization and their ability to cooperate.
So what do we know about their motivations for building Stonehenge? I mean, was it just one thing?
It's probably a combination of factors.
Like what?
Well, the article mentions ancestor worship, healing rituals, astronomy, and even like the idea of unifying different groups of people.
Okay, let's break that down a little bit.
Sure. So ancestor worship makes sense because they found all those cremated remains.
Right.
And then the blue stones and some of the injured bones they've found hint at maybe healing practices being important.
Hmm.
And of course, the astronomical alignments show their deep connection to the cosmos. And then the fact that Stonehenge evolved over time, like from an earthwork to a timber circle and then to the stones we see today, suggests that maybe it was used to bring different groups of people together.
So it was a constantly evolving site.
Exactly. It wasn't just built once and then left alone.
Mm-hmm.
It changed and adapted over generations.
Which makes sense, right? I mean, beliefs and cultures change over time.
Totally.
And one of the really interesting things that the article points out is that Stonehenge wasn't this like isolated phenomenon.
Oh, yeah. There are tons of other ancient sites around the world that show this same human impulse to create these like monumental structures.
Oh, okay. Like what?
Well, there's Newgrange in Ireland, which is this amazing tomb that's aligned with the winter solstice sunrise.
Wow.
And then there's Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, which is like super old.
Older than Stonehenge.
Way older. It actually predates agriculture, but it still shows these complex ritual structures.
Whoa.
And then there's Karnak in France, which has these like massive rows of standing stones.
Yeah.
And a lot of researchers believe that they were also used for astronomical observations.
So it's like this universal human thing,
Right.
to want to connect with the cosmos and build these incredible structures.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing when you think about it. It makes you wonder about the nature of like human consciousness.
Totally. So we've covered a lot of ground here. What does the future hold for Stonehenge?
Well, the research is definitely ongoing. They're planning more excavations near the heel stone in 2025.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and with every new dig, they're finding more artifacts and uncovering new information. Plus, there are all these amazing AI tools that are being used to analyze the existing data.
So we can expect even more breakthroughs.
I think so. And then there's the whole issue of preservation, which is really important.
Right, because if we're not careful, this amazing site could be lost forever.
Exactly. So they're doing a lot of work to protect the stones from erosion and the effects of tourism. And they're also creating digital records of everything, which is super important.
So future generations will still be able to experience it.
Yeah, hopefully in even more immersive ways, like through virtual reality and stuff.
That would be amazing. But even with all this research and all these new technologies, the article ends by saying that Stonehenge still holds onto a lot of its mystery.
Yeah, I think that's part of what makes it so fascinating.
Yeah.
There's still so many questions that we don't have answers to.
But what was it really used for? Who were the people who built it? What did they believe?
Right. And I think those questions are going to keep us captivated for generations to come.
Absolutely. So it's clear that Stonehenge is not just a pile of rocks. It's like this incredible, complex tapestry of, human history, spirituality, and ingenuity. The article calls it a Swiss Army knife of ancient life. And I think that's a perfect way to put it. It was a burial ground, a feast ground, a healing temple, an astronomical observatory, and a community center.
It was all of those things, and maybe even more that we haven't even discovered yet.
And it reminds us that, humans have been trying to understand our place in the universe for a really long time. We've been creating these amazing monuments and leaving our mark on the world.
It's a powerful legacy.
It really is. So as we wrap up here, I want to leave you with a question to ponder. What kind of Stonehenges are we building today? What will future archaeologists think when they dig up our cities and our, digital archives? What stories will they tell about us? I think that's something we're thinking about.
It definitely is.